Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Mr. President, I rise on a point of collective privilege. This afternoon, the ambassador from France was here and made a courtesy call. We did not discuss anything about a pending issue that was held this afternoon, but I had already manifested earlier this afternoon that I was going to see this French ambassador. It involves the issue of a product for vaccination made by a French company called Sanofi, one of the biggest and most respected corporations, drug corporations in the world. And because I do not want to have any color and I want to have transparency, I thought I'd rise now and not tomorrow, but today, just to obviate any hint that there was some effort on the part of anybody to try and influence my decision today in standing up here. The issue involved, Mr. President, is about the sudden decision made in the latter weeks of the previous administration. Sometime in December 22, 2015, the FDA suddenly approved a dengue vaccination to be implemented in the Philippines. Mr. President, on the same day, the Secretary of Health at that time said that we are still waiting for the pre-qualification guidelines from the World Health Organization. Now, Mr. President, before any medicine or any vaccine can be introduced, the rules of the World Health Organization require, or if you will, suggest strongly that it pre-qualify. And Mr. President, unfortunately, the pre-qualification by the government, by WHO, which is a standard procedure to ensure that vaccines purchased by the UN and government procurement agencies are safe and effective, never materialized. It has not been pre-qualified up to this time. That is not the only issue in this particular scenario, Mr. President. The other issue is, of course, we have about 200,000 cases of dengue every year. Now, of course, as you all know, we represent the Red Cross as well as chairperson, and we provide a lot of blood from the Red Cross, and which is the biggest defense against the dengue virus, Mr. President. But the real issue here is that it was done post-haste, Mr. President. It started on December 22 when the FDA approved it. By March, by February 11, 2016, the Philippines hosted the global launch of Dengue Vaxia, Mr. President, which is a dengue immunization medicine. I will just pause for a while to let my friends on the other side of the hall, Mr. President, calm down a bit, because I do not talk. I do not want to interrupt while they're talking, Mr. President. Thank you. These are all my friends, so I can be nice to them at any time. So having said that, Mr. President, so hard sometimes to speak because I'm speaking extemporaneously. I'm trying to collect my mind so that I can be cogent. And because of that, Mr. President, by March, the OH started vaccination, Mr. President. But in fact, there was a vaccination that occurred sometime earlier than that. But never mind, I will not go into that anymore. In fact, on March 31, 2016, an 11-year-old boy, John Paul Rafael, was vaccinated. He was screened and assessed by a health doctor. And later on, by April 3, 2016, the 11-year-old boy developed diarrhea and fever, taken to Baga Community and Medicare Hospital, Philippines, where he was diagnosed with amoebiasis. Now, Mr. President, the DOH, the DepEd, and the EILG collaborated in the major launch of the vaccine in Metro Manila on April 4, 2016. By April 24, 2016, 204,397 students have already been vaccinated, or about 73% of the target population of 279,393 students in NCR, Central and Luzon, and Calabarzon have been vaccinated. To date, they have already completed the vaccination process, Mr. President. That seems like good administrative, good enforcement of the DOH on the part of the DH and other agencies. However, it is so good that there was funds available about December, and suddenly they were able to discover that the government had 3.5 billion pesos in the DBM. It's not even in the DOH. That was suddenly available. And voila, Mr. President. All of a sudden, they will now use that for a vaccine that has not been priorly tested by the World Health Organization. And they really delivered it post-date. Now remember, we had an election in May 2016. 3.5 billion, Mr. President, is an awful lot of money. Mr. President, you know, I said this afternoon that 97% of our people, of our students in public school, Mr. President, have dental caries, may cavities. Do you know, Mr. President, ang doktor natin sa Department of Health na nakabudget kayo ay 243 dentists. That's for the whole country. And they use that throughout the whole education system of our country. 243. There was money available, and they could have used that to fund more dentists, even get casual dentists, pay them so that there will be regular checkups, if not hiring them. And I bet you, Mr. President, there will be an awful lot of children who will not be having not just gap, or, teeth that, that have fallen apart or have been taken out, but they will be healthier, because if you do not get good dental hygiene or treatment, that causes other diseases. And you can name them from cancer to any kind of disease, Mr. President. So the question lies is, how come when kailangan palang pwede magbulis, may pera palang available? Galing po ba yung pera niya sa DAP? Ang dami nakapilang humahanap ng pera para makakuha ng pera para sa edukasyon, para sa military. May marami-rami rin hong gamit na magagamit ang military dyan. Marami-rami rin hong magagamit na doon sa nutrition campaign. Sabi nga nung Department of Health Secretary kanina, they could add another 40,000 people that would be benefited by the nutrition campaign if they had used that money, or 3 times or 4 times the target that they had. Mr. President, the question is therefore posited before us in the Senate. Ito bang biniling ito, is this demand-driven or is this supply-driven? Mukhang supply-driven, Mr. President, because suddenly nagkaroon ng pera, naghanap ng pera na may bibigay sa isang kumpanya na perhaps, who knows, magaling naman, pero tayo nito, Mr. President. The Philippines now has the reputation of having done vaccination without pre-qualification by the World Health Organization, and we have become the #1 guinea pig in Asia. No country in Asia have utilized it. For that matter, in the whole world, only Mexico has done it in December 11 of 2015. Now, all of a sudden, because there is money available and a lot of people are asking money for our country, all of a sudden, may pera. At ito ay ginamit kagad sa mga estudyante natin. Without any prioritization, you are all aware of the fact that tayo hirap na hirap magpahanap ng mga yung sinasabing tinatawag na insertions. Alam nyo, sabi ng iba, mga PDAF, hindi raw pwede na ngayon, nahihirapan, and this is not a brief for PDAF. The point is, kung wala yung PDAF, may hirapan naman yung ibang mga bayan na kung wala silang lakas sa Maynila, hindi sila magkakaroon ng tulay, hindi sila magkakaroon ng ospital, hindi sila magkakaroon ng kalsada or airport or whatever it is. But here you have a fantastic situation na itong Department of Health ay suddenly binayayaan ng Department of Budget and Management ng 3.5 billion pesos on a questionable vaccine that has not been thoroughly tested by our people. Lalabas ang results na siguro in the next 4 years, Mr. President, whether it works. In fact, somebody was telling me on the way out, sabi, dapat bago ginawa yan, dapat merong blood test yan to ensure that there is negative, zero effect dyan sa tinetest ng mga bata. Of course, that will require additional expense. But no! Tinira nila kagad yan. Ang usual test ng World Health Organization, my staff tells me, is about maybe 200 students muna. Ito po, 230 students, 1,000 students ang talagang tinurukan kagad nitong vaccine na ito. Wala po ko sinasabi na walang efficacy itong dengue na ito. The jury is not yet out. I do know that there are other vaccines that are now in the process of being presented to the world, and we might have waited a few more months to find out whether in fact magagamit natin yung vaccine na yan. There are rumors that 2 children died in the course of this. Pero sabi nila, not connected, to be fair, sabi ng Department of Health. And when I asked, was this totally necessary, I was met with stony silence this afternoon in the hearing ng Department of Health. Nobody could say, kailangan na kagad yan, o dapat na-test. Nobody wanted to speak up. Siguro nagkakahiyaan doon sa nakaraang administrasyon. I have nothing against the previous administration, but I do have something against the fact that when you have money, unang-una, the purse strings, appropriations must come from the Congress, Mr. President, as we all know. And if there's this much money, we have to put a stop to people playing God in our country and saying, we have 3.5 billion, kami bahalang maglagay ng pera. Dito, wala kayong pakialam, mga congressmen o senador, kami ang maglalagay niyan. Di bali na hindi na pre-qualify, di bali may risk, hindi bali tayo lang ang gagamit sa buong Asia, di bali na, kung ano ba sabihin nyo, basta. Yung sinasabi, basta kami ang gagawa ng desisyon. And we don't know whether in fact something happened there. That is why I had to stand up here, because, coincidentally, I suddenly find out the French ambassador is coming today. And sabi ko, kaibigan ko yan. Nakita na kami niyan doon sa Cebu. Gumawa kami ng mga bahay para sa mga tao na salanta ng Yolanda. Pero ba't bigla magkukan? Tama-tama, nakalagay po sa akin schedule, ako i-attend talaga ng health because there are other issues like blood that I raised today. But I also took the opportunity because I have been doing our homework since I became a senator, or even before that. I've been talking, when I went to Geneva, I was asked by doctors, Filipino doctors, what I would do if I was elected senator about the sudden dengue vaccine. And when I came back, a lot of people wanted to see me. In fact, I had a couple of meetings with them, and I was very disturbed about this. Sabi ko, hindi naman siguro gagawin ng Sinophil yan, sapagkat yan ang humahawak ng Pasteur Center. Louis Pasteur, of course, as you know, is the primary inventor of vaccination, especially rabies, yung mga rabid dogs, sila nagsimula. But, so far as I'm concerned, Mr. President, I think this is something that cries to the Senate to look into the matter, whether there has been some shenanigans on the matter. Certainly, we ought to tarry a little and ask people that if we have extra money, especially with the decision from the Supreme Court saying that even DAP is unconstitutional, especially since we're always the butt of these issues about PDAF and everything like that. I do not want to see our kids, more importantly, become the guinea pigs. That is the primary issue. And when somebody tries to make a fast break para magawa yung bagay na yan, Mr. President, I feel that I am duty-bound to rise and to obviate any questions of transparency, especially when the French ambassador represents the country that produces this drug coming to the Senate. I want to make sure, and I told, in fairness to the the French ambassador, I told him that I had already said that he was coming and that I wanted to be transparent about it, and that I may even rise on a question of privilege here, so that if they want to come in later on, if they want to be part of any hearing that we're going to conduct, they are welcome so to do. But the issue is we have again to ferret whether there is danger, where there is not enough due diligence required that has been done, or whether there are other priorities that this money could have been made. But we cannot have all these people pretending and playing to be God and say 3.5 billion bigay natin dito para makabili tayo ng dengue vaccine. So, Mr. President, that is my position this afternoon. I'm sorry I have to rise again, but, you know, I thought it was necessary for me to rise because of the supervening events that happened this afternoon. And I thank the Senate for their patience in listening to the presentation just made. I just want to say, finally, that the indecent haste that was given, that they gave attention to, is not fair to the Filipino people. You can have indecent haste. For example, when there's a major epidemic going on, or a pandemic, you can go into hasty actions. Although, as Napoleon once said, you must make haste. If you must make haste, you must make haste slowly. Even during times of urgency, you have to make sure you do your due diligence. But in this particular instance, Mr. President, I think haste may have made waste, and I'm not talking about money. Money can always be made, but kids being exposed to this kind of danger, that is unworthy of a country that we all love. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and God bless the Philippines.
Mr. President.
Senator Legarda. Senator Legarda, Mr. President, and then Senator De Lima wishes to be recognized.
Yes.
Senator Legarda is recognized.
May this representation propound a few questions to the good sponsor who attended the hearing today.
Always, Mr. President, with the gentle lady from everywhere.
Thank you, Mr. President. So that it's clear on record, because it is my second year as a chairman of the Committee on Finance. And last year, I inherited the committee chairmanship from Senator Escudero. And before that, I was vice chair of the committee for 2 years. And just to put on record that it was not under my watch, neither was it, I think, under the watch of Senator Escudero, that there was a budgetary allocation of 3.5 billion or 4 billion, whichever is accurate, for that specific vaccine, which was not even, or which was newly approved by the FDA and funded by DBM, upon whose instigation, whoever is a proponent is, I'm not familiar with, and implemented within a span of less than 3 or 4 months. And so I wanted to put that on record. It was, I believe, an unobligated appropriation of other government agencies, which the Department of Budget downloaded over and above the Department of Health budget as an augmentation to their budget, which this representation as chair of the Finance Committee was not made aware of. That is what I understand. I will ask LBRMO. In fact, we will ask the Health Secretary to submit a report to the Finance Committee on how this appropriation was made available. So I wanted to put that on record because without me clarifying this, historically this will go in Senate record, and as chairman of finance, they just might put 2 and 2 together, and they might think, anybody in the future would say, oh, it's easy to pick apples and put an augmentation, and maybe it's the chairman of the finance at the time. So may I know from the good senator from Olongapo in the Philippines, what year was the allocation made, and was this a continuing appropriation of what year? When was it implemented?
2015, Mr. President.
2015.
The
And
eve of
implemented,
the May elections.
and implemented in April
April 2016, Mr.
of
President.
2016, yes. I am certain there must have been bidding insofar as the vaccine was concerned.
Mr. President, that is what I want to find out, because I don't think there's really an accepted vaccine recognized yet for dengue. There have been noises about Malaysia having one, and there have been other companies that are claiming that they have one, but something like this should have deserved more inquiry, more perspective should have been done to find out whether in fact we're going in the right direction. And I believe, Mr. President, the gentle lady is as usual very prescient, because in fact that is correct. We don't want the gentle lady to be accused of coming up with an insertion that she is not responsible for, because that is how it will be made to appear. They had to get it from some money that suddenly got freed up, or could be the AP. They have to tell us where that money came from and how they managed to be able to release that money to an agency at the last 2 minutes of the last administration. I don't mind. If it went properly, you will hear no squawk from me. I try to be as fair as possible. But if this was done post haste, in violation of all norms of due diligence, especially extraordinary due diligence should be required here, because this is the health of a country, whether this is the most appropriate use of the money. Like I pointed out, there are only 243 doctors attending to the patients, to the students of our country, and yet they don't even get dental treatment properly. I think these are just questions I'd like to ask, Mr. President.
Yes, and also to assure the good gentleman and to assure the body that in the 2017 NEP, there is no provision for this dengue vaccine. Neither will there be in the GAA of 2017 unless someone tries to amend it and make it his or her budgetary amendment, which I think the chair will not accept because it is still on the process of being validated, while it was approved by the FDA in December of 2015. The WHO has only piloted it, I believe, first time in Asia, in the Philippines, in certain areas, and in Mexico, I think. But I think Senator Gordon is in a better position to know more about this dengue vaccine. In fact, there are some articles about it, researches on this. I will no longer base it on. I will no longer comment on the controversy surrounding this dengue vaccine, but just to assure you that it is not in the present year's budget or in the future budget. That's it.
Perhaps, Mr. President, this will help. This is a pre-qualification flowchart, which requires almost 13 months before it qualifies.
Walang budget.
This was not done. Pre-qualification that should be done in 3 months includes many things from submission of application letter, vaccine a priority for the recipient, reject application, acknowledge acceptance of intention to submit, product summary, screening, etc. That's just 3 months, Mr. President. The rest will take another 9 months to approve. So obviously, this was done with, undue speed. So, Mr. President, in addition to that, there are also provisions here that I would like to read, if I may. As soon as PSE is accepted and when the pre-qualification procedure described in Section 3 is applied, who will request the manufacturer to submit an appropriate number of samples between 25 and 200, depending on the vaccine type and presentation offered, of 3 to 5 final lots for independent testing. Who will then send the vaccine samples to the contracted laboratories for the initial testing? Mr. President, I submit that this has not been done. The expected time frame for testing from the date of receipt of the samples by who to the finalization of testing by who is 3 months, Mr. President. And if you go on, they will require another 9 months before this is completed. I repeat, I do not want to shoot from the hip. We are merely asking questions so that we could actually do our own due diligence on the matter, whether we are indeed protecting the resources, the very scarce resources of this country, and whether we are doing it to protect our children and to be able to make sure that the appropriation is properly done and that the money, the object of the money, will indeed be benefited by it and not even be harmed by it.
Yes, Mr. President, it has been confirmed by the LBRMO that this was part of savings and the augmentation on the Department of Health budget to procure the dengue vaccine was approved supposedly by the Office of the President because it was an augmentation of what Congress approved as their budget. Thank you.
Wow.
So,
There you go, Mr. President.
Senator De Lima is recognized. So,
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one point, if the good gentleman or our esteemed colleague from Zambales would yield.
Willingly, Your Honor.
Is there an insinuation or an allegation here of some anomaly or irregularity in the whole process? I just need to understand the very issue at hand. I don't think, am I correct in saying that there is no issue on the propriety, necessity, or desirability of addressing the problem of dengue? I suppose there's no such issue. So the issue at hand is on the process. We need to understand first, what was the procurement process adopted? Was there open and public bidding, or is there one of those other modes of procurement other than open and public bidding?
On the contrary, Mr. President, if the gentleladies finish with their question, the issue of appropriateness is whether this was indeed a safe product to utilize.
So there is an issue on that.
Yes, because
Okay.
safety is an issue. Safety is an issue. And then the process is also an issue. The source of the money is also an issue. The process of releasing the money, the process of approving the product, and making sure that the country is well assured that this product is indeed well worth the effort to try and save more lives, or whether this is in fact the priority that we should do. Or was it done because there was money that was left behind and we should just spend it para hindi naman masayang magamit pa natin sa kampanya sa darating na Mayo. It can all be that, Your Honor.
So a number of issues are being raised
Yes.
here. I just needed to ask that for better perspective and for better understanding of the matter. So a number of issues are in fact being raised here that would warrant a further inquiry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that the point of the
Yes, Your
distinguished
Honor.
colleague from
Yes, Your Honor.
Zambales?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we have a new Senate President right now, and I believe that is Senator Angara, and he was quite, very, very energetic discussing with Senator Gatchalian a while ago. I'm sorry, Senator Villanueva.
I requested for the chair to preside over Senator Gordon's speech because he's always scolding me when he's chairing the Blue Ribbon and Justice Committees.
well, this is your chance, Mr. President. I move to refer the speech of Senator Gordon to the Committee on Health and Demography, secondarily to the Committee on Finance.
Any objection from the body?
Mr. President, I would like to refer it first to the Committee on Rules for further study because there could be a matter of accountability here of public officials.
What does the majority leader say?
Well, I withdraw the motion, Mr. President, and in that case, accept the proposal of the gentleman. I move to
So-
refer the speech to the Committee on Rules
There's
first.
a motion
Rules.
to refer the speech of the gentleman from Longapo to end the interpellations to the Committee on Rules. Any objection from the body? There being none, the motion is hereby carried.
Mr.
Majority
President,
Leader? Senator Gordon. Yes.
Just a point of information, I would not have had the courage to come up here on stage right now before everybody here without the support of Senator Nancy Binay, who was really chagrined, very, very, surprised at the very, very, strange way the matter was undertaken. In fact, I even told her, you may be, if you do this, you may be risking, your political re-election in a particular area of this country. And she said, courage is always there, but God is with us. So that's the important thing here.
Thank you, Senator Gordon. Majority Leader?